It's quiet. Not the kind of quiet that feels restful, the kind of quiet that feels wrong. The room is still. Your phone isn't buzzing. The world is behaving. And yet, somewhere inside your chest, something keeps twitching like a trapped animal. You feel it in the shallow breath you didn't notice you were holding, in the way your shoulders refuse to drop, in the way your mind starts searching for a problem like a flashlight sweeping a dark hallway. And you hate that part of you, the part that can't just relax, the part that turns peace into suspicion. You tell yourself, nothing is happening. Why do I feel like something is about to happen? And then the second fear arrives, the worse fear. What's wrong with me? But listen closely. If you feel anxious without a reason, it's often because the reason isn't in the present. It's in the training. It's in what your body learned long before you had language for it. Because some people weren't raised in homes where calm was normal. They were raised in emotional weather, where moods changed without warning, where silence wasn't peace, it was the pause before impact, where love had conditions and safety had a price. So you learned to become a scanner, not of the room, of people, not of danger, of mood shifts, not of reality, of possibility. And here is the paradox that sits at the center of your life. The thing that protected you once is now quietly exhausting you. The survival system that kept you alert, polite, prepared, useful, is now the system that won't let you rest. Because when you live too long in survival mode, calm doesn't feel like calm. Calm feels like vulnerability. And that is what no one tells you. Sometimes anxiety isn't a disorder. Sometimes anxiety is a memory, living in your nervous system. Let's name what's happening with precision. Anxious without a reason is usually not anxiety without a cause. It's anxiety without a visible trigger. A trigger is something obvious, a speech, a breakup, money problems, conflict. But what you're describing is different. It's the feeling of your body bracing for impact in a moment that looks safe. That points to a deeper architecture beneath the emotion, a nervous system conditioned by chronic unpredictability. Think of your mind like a smoke alarm. In a healthy environment, it rings when there's fire. In an unsafe environment, it gets tuned to the smallest hint of smoke. Then, eventually, it starts ringing when you toast bread. That's what chronic anxiety can become, a danger detection system calibrated too high. Here are 3 concepts that explain this pattern clearly. 1. Hypervigilance. Hypervigilance is the nervous system's habit of scanning for threat. It's not just being nervous, it's being on watch. People with hypervigilance don't simply worry, they monitor microsignals, facial shifts, tone changes, silence, delays, pauses. They read rooms like survival depends on it, because once it did. Hypervigilance creates anxiety even in neutral moments because the body lives in pre-impact. It's like always standing near a door, waiting for it to slam. 2. Emotional neglect schema. Emotional neglect doesn't always look like cruelty. Sometimes it looks like absence. No one taught you how to regulate. No one mirrored your emotions. No one helped your nervous system downshift. So you became your own emotional parent, but you did it with child-level tools. And when emotions aren't met, they don't disappear. They go underground and turn into chronic tension, shame, and a constant sense of something is off. This forms a schema, an internal blueprint, where your mind assumes, I'm alone with what I feel. I have to manage everything myself. It's not safe to need. That blueprint produces anxiety because it turns every problem into a solo survival task. 3. Parentification. Parentification is when a child becomes the emotional caretaker of the household. Maybe you were the therapist, the mediator, the mature one, the one who kept things stable. And it looks noble from the outside, but inside, it trains your nervous system to believe, if I'm not watching, something will fall apart. If I relax, I'm irresponsible. If I stop managing, I'll lose control. So, even in adulthood, you can't rest without guilt. Even on good days, you feel pressure because your system equates relaxation with risk. Now, here's where it becomes neurological. Your brain has a network called the default mode network, the part of you that activates when you're not focused on an external task. For many people, this network is where reflection happens. But for people trained by chronic stress, the default mode network becomes a rumination engine. So the moment you stop doing, your mind starts searching. Not because you're broken, but because stillness brings you back to what you couldn't feel safely back then. This is where the cost becomes existential. Because anxiety without a clear reason isn't just discomfort, it's a slow theft. It steals your morning before it begins. It steals your ability to be fully present. It steals your relationships by making closeness feel like danger. It steals your identity by turning life into management. And the grief is invisible. No one sees it because you're functioning. You show up, you reply, you smile, you handle it. But inside, you are constantly negotiating with the same inner question: am I safe? And the tragedy is this: you ask that question even when you are safe. Because your body doesn't trust safety. Your body trusts familiarity. And if your childhood familiar was tension, unpredictability, emotional distance, then calm feels unnatural. Calm feels like the moment before something goes wrong. This is the hidden sacrifice. You traded authenticity for anticipation. You learned to be acceptable instead of real, helpful instead of honest, stable instead of soft. You learned to survive by becoming emotionally strategic. And here's the core fear under this whole pattern. It's not just fear of judgment. It's not just fear of failure. It's deeper. It's fear of being caught unprepared in a world that once punished you for not predicting the mood. It's fear of rest, because rest once meant you weren't paying attention. This is why anxiety shows up in ordinary moments. When someone takes longer to reply, when the room gets quiet, when plans change slightly, when your boss writes, "Can we talk?" When you finally have nothing to do, because your nervous system interprets ambiguity as threat. And that's where philosophy becomes relevant. Carl Jung warned that what remains unconscious doesn't disappear, it becomes fate. Meaning, what you don't face internally will keep recreating itself externally. And for you, the fate isn't the worst-case scenario happening. The fate is living like it might. That is the invisible grief. You live in a state of emotional preparedness for catastrophes that never arrive. You suffer, quietly, preemptively, for things that might not even be real. And over time, this does something devastating. It makes you distrust joy. Because joy feels like letting your guard down. And letting your guard down once had consequences. So you become an expert at endurance and a beginner at peace. Now let's make it concrete. These patterns are not personality traits. They are coping mechanisms, strategies your nervous system perfected to keep you safe. And they show up across your life in predictable ways. 1. Relationships. You might feel anxious when someone is kind to you because kindness feels unfamiliar. You might assume intimacy will eventually turn into disappointment. You might overread messages, tone, silence. You might apologize too quickly, explain yourself too much, feel guilty for having needs, chase reassurance, then feel ashamed for needing it. Some people become anxious attachers. They cling, they overthink, they fear abandonment. Others become avoidant. They detach, they rationalize, they disappear emotionally. Different strategies, same wound. The wound is, love doesn't feel stable. 2. Career and performance. They become adults who perform under pressure, but collapse in stillness. You might work harder than necessary because productivity feels like safety. Fear being seen as lazy even when exhausted. Feel anxious on weekends because you're not earning your right to rest. You become great in chaos, but uncomfortable in calm. 3. Self-worth. Your value might feel conditional. Not I am worthy, but I am worthy if. If I'm useful, if I'm impressive, if I'm not a burden, if I'm in control. So anxiety becomes the engine that keeps your self-worth alive. If you stop worrying, who are you? 4. Boundaries. You might struggle with boundaries because boundaries create conflict, and conflict once felt dangerous. So you tolerate too much, you stay silent too long. You say it's fine when it isn't. Then your body speaks for you through anxiety because your mouth never got permission. 5. Emotional regulation. You might feel emotions as too much or not allowed. So you intellectualize, you distract, you numb, you scroll, you stay busy. But the nervous system doesn't forget what you avoid. It stores it. So the anxiety returns again and again like an unpaid debt. 6. Internal identity. This is the most subtle symptom. You might not know what you feel until it's extreme. You might not know what you want without asking someone else first. You might not know who you are outside of survival mode because you built an identity around managing your emotions, managing other people, managing perception, managing outcomes. And when that management isn't needed, you feel empty or restless or afraid. Now, here's the beginning of unlearning. It starts with one move that feels almost too simple. Stop gaslighting yourself. Instead of, I'm anxious for no reason, try, my body learned to stay alert to stay safe. That one reframe turns shame into witnessing, and witnessing is where healing begins. Because when you witness your anxiety, you stop becoming it. You stop treating it like your identity. You start seeing it as a signal, an old protector trying to do its job, not a villain, a misguided guardian. Healing this isn't about getting rid of anxiety. It's about retraining the nervous system to recognize safety without needing proof through crisis. You are not trying to be fixed. You are trying to become whole. Here are grounded methods that actually work when practiced consistently. 1. Nervous system regulation. Your logic won't out-argue a dysregulated body. Start with the body. Slow exhale breathing. Longer exhale than inhale. Grounding through physical sensation. Feet on floor, back against chair. Cold water on face, briefly, to trigger the dive reflex. Daily movement that signals completion of stress cycles. Walking, shaking, stretching. The goal is not intensity. The goal is repetition. You're teaching the body, we can come down now. 2. Inner child reparenting. The anxious part of you is often a younger part. Ask it, gently, like you would a child. What are you afraid will happen if you relax? What did you have to watch for back then? Then give it what it missed. Validation, steadiness, permission to need, permission to rest. Reparenting isn't pretending the past didn't happen. It's giving the nervous system a new reference point, a present-day adult who stays. 3. Shadow work. The shadow isn't just darkness. It's what you had to disown to be loved. Maybe you disowned anger. Maybe you disowned need. Maybe you disowned softness. And what you disown doesn't vanish. It becomes anxiety. Shadow work means reclaiming what you buried. I am allowed to be inconvenient. I am allowed to disappoint people. I am allowed to take up emotional space. Not as rebellion, as restoration. 4. Choosing softness over survival. This one is not cute. It's difficult. Because survival mode feels powerful. Softness feels exposed. But softness is what your nervous system needs to learn. Saying no without over-explaining. Letting silence exist. Pausing before rescuing. Allowing someone else to carry emotional weight. Not rushing to resolve every tension. At first, softness will feel unsafe. That doesn't mean it's wrong. It means it's new. And here's a quote that belongs at the center of this transformation. The wound is the place where the light enters you. Rumi. Not because pain is good, but because awareness changes what pain can become. So let me leave you with something direct. If you feel anxious without a reason, you are not weak. You are not broken. You are not too sensitive. You are someone whose body learned to survive. And now your next chapter is not about surviving better. It's about living differently. Not by forcing peace, but by practicing it, small, daily, embodied, until your nervous system believes it. Because the goal is not to be fixed. The goal is to become whole. And if this script felt like it was describing you, not in a vague way, but in a recognizing way, share it with someone who lives in that silent state of pre-impact. And if you want more deep psychological breakdowns like this, subscribe, not for content, but for language. Language that helps you finally name what you've been carrying. You've been scanning for danger for a long time. Maybe now, it's time to learn what safety feels like. Quietly, slowly, for real.